What's up?
Hi.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Why are you so awesome?
My parents.
That sounded rehearsed. So, Malcolm, tell me how awesome I am.
Dad told me to say it.
No, but seriously. No, I get a lot of compliments on you.
I don't know. I'm just this way.
Yeah, I get from early ages, they would just be like, "Oh, he's such a nice kid," and in the teenage years especially, because that's a time when parents and children tend to butt heads the most in their teen years. And I feel like we did that. Age 11 was like your time where you were the most angry with us. And then it was like after that, I mean, we had occasional arguments and stuff, but I think we've had a pretty good relationship overall. But yeah, I get a lot of compliments on what a good person you are.
Yeah, I think 11 was around the time that I was starting to get into more violent stuff. Like, because that's when I really started getting into video games.
I think you should clarify. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no. I was
into more violent stuff.
I was on the sidewalk burning ants and throwing rocks through people's windows. But you guys just wouldn't let me.
No, you did. You started to get more into like the first person shooter video games, and
I remember having to write a paper to you guys about
I forgot about that.
If I could play Halo or not.
I totally forgot about that because we were really nervous about that. It's a difficult transition time for a parent, right? Like giving you a little bit more independence over what you think you can consume, and then also just being exposed to more things that that are negative, right?
Yeah.
And we were very afraid because your friends had Halo, right? And you wanted to play. Because I know you didn't have it at the time.
I only had a computer.
Yeah, you didn't have like a system of any kind or anything, right?
Yeah.
Because you did have a PlayStation when you were younger, but that got stolen.
Yeah, and then I think Dad downloaded all the games I had on the PlayStation to Steam on my computer.
Oh, that's right.
Because I loved the Lego Star Wars games.
Oh,
so.
yeah, you did that. But you did a lot of Minecraft.
Even then, in general, I didn't. No, even in Blacksburg, I didn't really play much Minecraft.
I felt like you did a lot in Blacksburg. But it was when you were starting to get into it, I think.
I think it must have been the year before we moved back here that I was getting into it. Because at first, I didn't like Minecraft.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Dad tried showing it to me, and like everything that Dad tried to show me when I was little, I decided I didn't like it because Dad was trying to show me.
Of course.
So
that's how it works.
Yes.
Yeah, but we were really nervous about that, and so it was your dad's idea, which is funny since I was the English teacher, and he was like, "You need to write us an essay about why you should be able." Do you even remember what was in it?
Yes, actually.
Really? I don't. Because I know it wasn't like because I want to.
I remember actually looking stuff up too.
Really?
Yes.
Probably the best research you ever did for a paper.
That's definitely not true. But it was just like basically talking about how it's not very like gory at all. Mm-hmm. Which I mean, now you've played Halo, so you know it's
birthday balloons and streamers when you shoot a grunt.
Yeah. And then it's also just like you see little flashes of blue or red. Like, it's not like
it's not like a horror movie where it's like
entrails, blood, guts.
Yeah.
I remember that being a big point because I knew that you guys didn't like violence at all. Yeah. And I think it was also just like I was talking about how it's high fantasy, like it's like people in space fighting aliens. Like it wasn't.
Oh yeah, it wasn't
like boots
people,
on the ground shooting other people. It was
Yeah. I feel like, I don't know if this was in your paper, but I remember you making this point a lot as a teenager, which was that studies have shown that it's the video games don't make a person violent.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't remember if it was in that paper.
I still make that point now because people still think that's the case.
Yeah, because I think it's largely because of the Columbine shooting, because that was one of like the very first, it was the first major school shooting perpetrated by the student, and they were really into those games, and so
I even there was another shooting at one point where it was proven that the person had somewhat on occasion played Call of Duty.
Correlation is not causation.
And I was like,
yeah,
they have less hours in Call of Duty than I do in Call of Duty in like a week.
right. Yeah.
What? I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, video games are not going to magically make your child violent.
No, it's not.
I can see how it would actually, interestingly, I feel like I think some people think, well, if they already have violent tendencies and then they're doing this, it's going to make them want to go out and do it in real life. And I could see maybe an argument for that, but there's also the possibility that having an outlet like that might prevent someone from doing,
Actually, video games are used for therapy now, both physical and mental. I mean, not stuff like Call of Duty, but
right, yeah,
they do have it as an outlet or a way of even keeping your mental cognition healthy, because video games can engage part of your brain that keeps your brain young and healthy. So it's used to battle dementia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so
video games have also been used to cure small-time diseases.
Like you have a disease, you play a video game and you're cured?
Yep, magically. No, there is this game where people could like actually first of all, there was like the main part of the game where you could like solve things that have already been solved with combining I don't know if it was molecules or genomes or something together.
Oh.
And then there was literally just a like game mode of the game where it's just all the stuff that scientists are currently working on or things that haven't been proven yet. And because you have like tens of thousands of people playing this game, you had tens of thousands of people trying to solve all of these things, and they solved a bunch of them.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole,
and they're just video game players. Like they weren't scientists. They're just, if you tap that right part of someone's mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a theory, a pedagogical theory about using basically games, video games, other games, as a way to help people learn.
Yeah.
Because it keeps them engaged. They're interested. And yeah. So anyway, just thinking about that period of time, it was a rougher period of time for us, but it still is not nearly what I've seen some other people go through. And we also have had a good relationship intact. And a couple people they're like, what I'd love to hear you guys talk about is, your relationship and how you've maintained that and how, so yeah. So anyway, I just thought maybe we could explore that a little. And I just want to put a little disclaimer on here that like Don and I have had some strong thoughts on how we wanted to raise Malcolm, and we're very proud of how he's turned out. But I don't think I have all the answers, and I have also made a lot of mistakes. So by no means do I think I'm a perfect parent. And Malcolm will tell you all of them right now. By no means do I think I'm a perfect parent. But if anything can help anyone think through stuff, then sure, let's share it.
There's always the prejudice, not prejudice. That's definitely not the right word. Bias, yeah. No, definitely prejudice. No. There's definitely bias that plays into it. Like, you would not let me watch any horror things
No.
whatsoever.
No. No.
Which, I mean, you saved me from a very boring genre, so thank you. But
Oh, them's fighting words with Shelby. Well, honestly, I mean, there is a thing where I don't like horror. But it was also, your mind was still growing, and I wanted to like protect you from nightmares and stuff, you know?
yeah.
So
I had nightmares anyway.
joke's on you, Mom.
Welcome to having depression when you're too young for a kid that should have depression.
Yeah. Well, and there probably was a bit of bias in there because that kind of stuff sits with me, right? So, I mean, you know my Jurassic Park story. Like, you know, I saw Jurassic Park when it first came out in the theaters. And it was very startling to me. And after I saw it, I had nightmares about dinosaurs. I still went on to watch the other two of that original trilogy, but like I had nightmares about dinosaurs for like a really long time, and also like this idea that these like scientists did all this stuff, and I'm like, they could bring him back. They could bring him back, and I would just like, yeah. So throughout the years, I would have different nightmares about dinosaurs, but more less ridiculously speaking, I would get, you know, horror things that, especially if they were more in like the spiritual realm, would just like sit with me for days and freak me out, and I didn't want that to happen to you.
Yeah, no, it's so separated in my mind. I think it's because I definitely keep different worlds in my brain for everything. Like, I'm like, ooh, like I never accidentally mix canon. Like, I'm never like, oh, this was actually in Star Wars, not in Halo. Like, I am very good at separating stuff and keeping things in conjunction. Like, in my mind, I have our world as its own thing and what continuity our world follows, which there are somehow plot holes in our world. Don't know how that works, but
Plot holes in reality.
yes, I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
But I think another reason that like we've stayed so connected and things don't really sit with me or bother me is like you guys always have just answered my questions. Like, you guys have never been because I said so people.
Oh my gosh, but I have to tell the story.
Yeah, go ahead. Go for
it. Because yeah, so that was a parenting philosophy. A lot of people are like, "What are you doing?" Because
I don't understand that. I'm like, why are people surprised?
Because people buy into the basic ideas of authoritarian parenting. Like, that's just kind of like the fallback. That's
authoritarian stuff is the reason why our world is so fucked up.
Well, amen. So, yeah, so we didn't want to be those authoritarian parents. And I would say I wasn't there right away. Like, in my mind, I was just like, well, you're the kid, I'm the parent. You do what I say. And I also had some anger issues earlier on. So I wasn't perfectly in this right away, but by the time you were 3 or 4, maybe, yeah. And so we would let you ask all the questions. We would answer your questions. We never did because I said so. We never were just like, Malcolm, you have to do it. You know, blah, 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 blah. Until we finally, the why questions got to be way too much one day. And finally, I don't remember which one of us what it was. We were just like, you know what, Malcolm, because I said so. And you paused and you thought and you go, is that a good answer for you? Because it's not a good answer for me.
Yep. It's true. Wasn't a good answer.
I mean, fair. But I loved that reaction because it was just so funny and fair. Like, that's not a good reason, you know?
I think it was that on top of the not letting me win thing.
Oh, I think we have to explain that a little bit.
Oh, well, yeah, you guys have never let me win. You would dance around on my loss when I was 5. So
Now,
actually, I think that was mostly Dad. But
when you, I don't know, when we played air hockey.
oh, that's true. You turned into She-Hulk.
But no, when you were like a baby, you know, we'd be just like pretend, you know, like if you were trying to throw something in a basket, then we might help it over and be like, yay, you know, like, you know, we did that kind of stuff. But yeah, when we started playing games, we would give you tips and stuff to help out. Like, oh, Malcolm, maybe you want to do this or whatever. But we would never just be like, oh, you get to win. Here you go. You know?
Yeah.
We're like, I win, sucker.
But yeah, I think because of the never saying because I told you so and always letting me win, you guys always
Always letting you win, not letting you.
always not letting me win. So not letting me win. You guys invited, no, maybe not invited challenge is the right word, but like you guys didn't shy away from it. So I was never a kid to like hide my disagreements.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware. And so are many of your teachers.
Yes. But yeah, so I feel like I learned a lot more than some kids might have about things, because I think some kids might just like sit in their own logic and not get proven otherwise. Whereas I would get proven otherwise by you or Dad. You'd be like, oh, well, this is actually how it is. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, we also didn't shy away from giving you, like, correcting you if you were, like, you know.
And then you guys also didn't shy away from if I was right either.
Right.
Which is also good, because if you...
That was hard. Because you mean, and like, you know, when you're like 7-year-old is like, well, wouldn't it be this way? And you're like, oh, yes. Like, I just got out logicked by a 7-year-old.
But like, I feel like, I wonder how many like kids have said something like that to their parents, and their parents just tell them that they're wrong, even though they're correct, just to preserve their own dignity against their own 7-year-old?
preserve their authority. And I actually think this is a really, really important thing, because when you're told with authority that you know, this equals that, like, you know, or this is how you do this or whatever, but you're not given a reason why, at some point you're naturally going to like seep out of that authoritarian thing and go, well, what would happen if I did do Y? You know, like,
and then you become combative, rebellious.
Right. Because then you're like, well, you lied to me.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? So then a child, a teenager or whatever, becomes really combative and disrespectful and, you know, like, well, you always tell me not to do these things. I mean, I think we even told you, oh gosh, I remember this. We just watched Hunger Games last night, and this is sounding like the plot to Hunger Games. How? The authoritarian versus the people. Yeah. I don't agree at all with this. Like, just, this is, I decree it and that's it. Like, there should be conversation. There should be thought processes, and allowing your child to think is a good thing.
What?
Oh, I know. But I remember we had some friends growing up, or friends when you were growing up, whose son was addicted to drugs and did, and did some bad things, you know, like stole from people and stuff like that to feed their habit. And I remember you asking me about, like, why do they do drugs if it does these bad things, right?
Yeah.
And I think some parents would have been like, well, because they're a bad person, you know, or well, because they have an addiction, and just kind of oversimplify it. But we told you...
At least addiction is more on the correct side.
It is, yes. But we told you because it doesn't feel bad at first.
Yeah.
And we were like, when people first start to take drugs, like, it feels good. It gives them what's called a high. And we explained it all to you. And then we explained to you how addiction works. And then we're like, and then it gets bad. Like, then it becomes bad, and you can't get away from it, and it causes all of these negative things. And so I personally I don't know if you ever thought this consciously, if you're going to disagree with what I'm about to say, but I personally think that's why you never really did anything like that, because I didn't lie to you and be like, oh, drugs are bad.
Yes.
And then your friends go, oh no, drugs are good. And you go, okay.
Yeah. Because I already know that there's a good part to them.
Right.
And that's what I don't understand about cigarettes. There's just nothing good about cigarettes. That's just, they
Well, I think the people who smoke them feel something, obviously. But
really, I didn't think cigarettes gave you any sort of high. I thought it was just, it tasted bad, it smelled bad, and it was bad for your lungs.
I don't think it's a high. I've heard people say it relaxes them.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's like smoke in a beehive.
A beehive?
Yeah. People will light fires underneath of beehives because then the smoke makes all the bees fall asleep and then they can get all the honey out.
I was trying to figure out how someone would smoke a beehive. And then I was like, is this a different term for marijuana that I haven't heard?
I was relating cigarette smoke and the calming effect of fire smoke.
Why would someone do that? Okay, sorry.
That was funny though. Okay, I guess that makes more sense. I'm so used to things being like, oh, it makes you feel really good or something. But yeah, I mean, I never done drugs. I've drank alcohol before, but I don't drink alcohol. And I don't smoke anything. I don't
Inject anything.
No.
Yeah. I have to tell you this. You said about the cigarette, and this made me think. So I was curious when I was younger about cigarettes, and my neighbor's mother smoked, right? So I knew how to sneak into their house when it was locked. So there was one day I snuck in and I stole a cigarette, and I may have borrowed her lighter too or something. I don't know. And I got on my bike and I rode as far away from the house as I could. And then I smoked the cigarette because I was curious what it was all about. And it was really interesting because I remember thinking I hate the smell of it. I really, really hate the smell of it. And I really hate the stale smell of it on people, when they smoke in their house and then they go out and just everything smells like smoke. But in the moment, I remember thinking there was something I liked about it, but I didn't understand what. And I was just curious, and that was it. I have never smoked a cigarette again. But what's really weird is every once in a while, I will just get a whiff of the smoke, and I'll be like, oh man, I want to smoke a cigarette. It's so strange. But I've only ever smoked that one. And yeah, my illicit cigarette, but yeah.
Mom ever find out? I mean, besides you just telling her
Well,
in the
I was
future?
about to say she oh no, not at the moment. No, I don't know if I ever told her, but if she's listening to this now, she knows.
Be careful when you go to Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right.
Again.
Yeah, I'll be.
Might get sent to your room.
Yeah. But anyway, but yeah, I think I'm not gonna lie. There were times it was really difficult being honest and open with you, and including you in decisions, which we did a lot.
Oh yeah, that's true. I think that was honestly also one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Because I think the thing I remember definitely told you guys when I was little was I hated being treated like I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably because you guys always included me in everything that you guys did. And so I somewhat knew the adult decisions and stuff. And I understood what you guys talked about too at your table, but whatever, I can even see you guys kind of grimace at it or be when whatever person's house you're going to, that they were like, oh, Malcolm, you can go sit at the kids table.
And I'd be like,
And I'm like, and do what?
Right.
I'm like,
be a kid.
Man, sitting at the kids' table was the most boring thing.
Oh, trust me, I felt the same way when I was your age.
I was just
I
like,
love to talk to the adults. I really like to be in on the conversations. And
I remember taking some adults off guard talking to them as well.
well, yeah, that happened all the time. People are like, man, your son is, he's remarkable.
I just talked normally. Like, I didn't think it was anything. Like, it was just like, I think you guys had just always told me about stuff and had always included me in everything. So I knew stuff, like the adult world wasn't hidden from me because I wasn't an adult.
Right. Yeah. And yeah. And we separate. I think there's a couple things. One, we separate generations a lot now. Like there used to be much more multi-generational interaction, I think, in the past. But two, you also grew up around a lot of adults. Like,
Yeah.
because we had people over at the house all the time. We had our community of people. We started our Sunday lunches while I was pregnant with you. So that was just a part of your childhood was, and plus, when your dad
There wasn't really any kids my age besides my neighbor, and other kids were like significantly older than me. So even they were more mature.
Yeah. Yeah. You fell in a weird time because it was like, there was a time when all the people we knew were having babies, and then there was a period of time, and then there was you, and then there was a period of time, and then there was all our friends are having babies. So you're like just kind of like on this island by yourself. And
I was the only kid and and in that gap.
Yes, you were. Yeah, pretty much. And when your dad was the college pastor, you had college students around all the time.
Yeah, and then even in Blacksburg, I played ultimate frisbee with
the
college kid
That's
club.
right, you did.
The college kid club, the college club.
The college kid club.
It's still in my mind since I was little as like, oh, this is like the college kid group. Like,
right.
This is...
Yeah. But I think that was really important to your formation. Like I've heard that about language development. Like the more people you can expose your child to, like more regular conversations, they just pick up more words, that kind of stuff. And but we have this thing where we really want to separate the adults from the children. And we also, I think, still relatively prevalent in our society is authoritarian parenting. Now, I think that's going away. Every generation, I think, comes up with different methods of parenting that are more like I think there's one called gentle parenting right now.
I have one.
What?
Parenting.
Yeah, but see, to a lot of people, parenting would be the authoritarian parenting.
Yeah.
And I think
good parenting.
but then what's that? You know what I mean? Like some people are like, oh, you're too like you should just. They're very punishing.
We should use belts again.
I mean, kind of. Yeah, there are people who are like that. And I remember even do you know who Matt Walsh is? Not the good Matt Walsh, but the bad Matt Walsh. Mm-hmm. Okay. He did this review of a book it was a children's book, and it was about consent, and not for sex.
Okay. That was.
But there's a philosophy that one of the reasons why people are so poor at consent as adults is because they're never taught that their opinion matters as children. Like they're just, you know what I mean? And so a lot of families will be like, go hug your aunt, go hug your grandma, go hug, even if the child doesn't want to be touched.
Yeah.
It's like a requirement. And, so this book was sort of the idea of like kids have bodily autonomy. They're not like your plaything. They're not your pet. They're
Especially
not your,
if you don't understand or you haven't found out yet that your kid has something like autism. And autism is one of those really big ones for physical touch. Like,
right.
Like you could not understand why every family gathering your kid is freaking out. And it's just because like,
they're overstimulated. They don't want to be
touched.
Their grandmother
is always like poking them or something like that.
Yeah. And that's what kind of this book was getting at. It was like, Basically, like, you don't have to sit on your uncle's knee. You don't have to hug your grandma, because then you're basically teaching kids that it's okay for adults to touch them whenever they want.
Which then
Which is bad.
gets to a whole nother.
Exactly. And so you would think someone who claims to be so against like pedophilia and, so for the safety of kids and everything would be like, this is a good book. Instead, he totally trashed the book. And then he was like, consent, my kids do whatever I tell them to do, And I was just like, dang, man.
Also, your kids will be less rebellious if you let them be their own person.
Yeah.
I don't understand what's so hard to understand about that kind of stuff.
I'm sure that's not always 100% true. I'm sure there's some parent out there going, no, they won't. But I mean, it worked for us. Maybe we just got lucky.
No, it seems pretty consistent with friends that I've known.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime that I know someone who's like, I'm going to sneak out or something like that, I've met their parents and I'm like, I could understand why you'd want to sneak out. I was like, your parents are kind of assholes. Like they hover. So the amount, oh my gosh, going to MV, the amount of parents that just hover.
Oh, helicopter parents?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Yeah. I was actually really...
I thought you guys were helicopter. No, I'm kidding.
I could have easily been. Honestly, your dad, a lot of the parenting philosophy came from your dad, and I had to kind of learn it over time. I think he had more to easily unlearn because he was like, well, I don't want to be my parents,
Yeah.
Whereas I have a great relationship with my parents. I love my parents. And so I don't know. I just didn't really think about like how I needed to parent. I just sort of just did stuff. And then, Don would be like, well, what if we did this instead? Like, oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Darn it. And I don't remember where I was going. Where was I going? What were you just talking about? Oh, helicopter parents. So when we lived,
You're welcome.
I'm actually really grateful for our time in Blacksburg because I think that helped me let go because it felt like a safe space to let you have freedom because we lived in that giant apartment complex. And we were set aside from like main roads and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was full of, it was, I mean, there was the student section, but there was also the section we lived in, which was like graduate school students and like visiting professors and families and like stuff like that. And so there were a whole bunch of kids along there.
Yep.
And so I knew, you went riding bikes with your friends, you were going to be surrounded, like you're going to be in an area we were familiar with. You went up to the pool. We knew where that was. Like it was so much easier for you to just be like, oh, I'm going to get on my bike and go and us be like, okay,
Yeah. A college residential area was actually surprisingly a really good area. I feel like to raise a kid. Cause like then moving back here, I'm like, there's not a lot of kids around me my age. And there's like the community pools are kind of gross. And
well, it's the area, it's because the area, like the center of the apartment complex was like students and then like the outskirts. So we mostly were in the outskirts. We didn't hardly really go through the student section.
Yeah. We were in like downtown college area. We were, because it was like a college town.
Right. Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think college towns are great because there's a lot of kids your age and there's always like something that's owned by something that's known by the college. So it's usually kept up nice and everything like that.
Well, the sad thing is because the transient nature of colleges and universities meant like your friends were constantly moving away.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we moved away,
I mean, but that can also be a lesson in and of itself.
Yeah.
Just, because I mean, if you don't deal with some sort of loss at all for a big portion of your life, then when it finally hits, it's going to suck.
That's a good point.
Like I had never really experienced something that was really like earth shattering until June last year, not the month, until our dog passed away last year.
Oh.
And so that was like devastating for me. Like I took a big time off of my job, and I like barely function.
Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, because I mean, and for like one of my best friends, stuff like that doesn't bother them at all because they've had multiple deaths in their families. They've their parents are both EMTs, so the amount of stories
I'm
that they've
sure,
heard
yeah.
and everything like
Well, and they've
they're
had a lot of
very-
animals, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of gone. They've
Yeah.
been through that, and
So yeah, there's just so I think something like that made it a little, because like if I had never experienced some of my close friends moving away from me, I couldn't imagine how much worse June passing would have been.
yeah. I think we try to protect kids too much. It's kind of funny and weird for me to say that right after I said like we should have a book on consent. I think we need to protect kids in the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying like give your kid a hunting knife and drop them off in the middle of the forest and tell them to make their way home.
Some do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. Parenting's difficult.
I think some of it's also just, you can't just stick with one thing.
No.
Some of it's like you have to cater to your kid.
100%. I have known people who have 2 kids, 3 kids, and they parent the way they parent. That's it. And one will be like the nicest, most obedient child. Do you know
Raymond
what I
Holt.
mean? Huh?
Raymond Holt.
He'll be Raymond Holt, yes. And then the other will just be like the
Jake Peralta.
rebellious. Yeah. Although Jake was like a good, like,
Well, I mean, he's
he
good,
was a
but
scamp.
he was off the walls.
Right, yeah. But like, yeah, it's so I think you do kind of have to
Especially since
adjust.
I mean, any parent that have, I don't really know how to put it, an average kid, like a kid that doesn't really have any sort of, mental problems or deformities or anything like that, and then has another kid that might have like autism or Down syndrome, they learn so quickly that kids can be so different from each other.
Yeah, because that's an obvious difference.
Yeah, it's very extreme, and like you have to cater to that kid then.
Yeah.
At least if it's a higher form of autism. Like
Right.
there are obviously kids that have lower forms of autism that you're just like, oh, they're just very obsessive over this one thing.
Right, yeah.
That's the first clue there that you got for them having autism. But even simple stuff like one of your kids really likes to go out to the playground nearby and play with a bunch of kids versus your other kid likes to stay inside and draw the whole day. Like there's got to be different parenting for even something as simple as that difference.
Yeah, and that's something that annoys me when I see parents doing this to their children is when they like we have a bias towards extroversion in this country. And so like
Yes.
it's just like there are so many times
Morning people.
Huh?
And morning people.
And morning people, that too. Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's like there's lots of situations where people just expect other people to be an extrovert. And if they're not acting like an extrovert, it's like, oh, there's something wrong with you. You have to learn to be an extrovert. But we never go up to extroverts and be like, you need to like calm down. We need you to learn how to be an introvert.
There are people now that are doing that.
Yeah,
They'll walk up
yeah.
to someone and be like, you need to calm down.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a little frustrating to me when people do that because there are different personalities and not everyone can learn to be an extrovert, you know?
The world is about networking.
Yeah.
I don't know how I managed, and I don't know if I could somehow give my knowledge to other people, but I managed to just say F it at one point and just started forcing myself to be more extroverted and confident, and it just ended up taking at some point. And I'm still not like super extroverted, but I'm enough where I can network.
So you're disproving what I just said, basically.
What? No, I'm saying No, you said that people can't,
Yeah.
or you said that some people can't.
Right.
I'm saying that like it doesn't hurt to try.
Oh, yeah.
Like for the longest time, I never thought I was going to be able to. But no, I think it really depends on the person.
Yeah.
Because some of it could have also just been something as simple as like me growing up. Like people grow out of things. Extroversion and introversion can be one of those things.
Oh,
as
you
well.
were very extroverted as a child.
Yeah, and then
You just walk up to people. Yeah.
yeah, and then for a while I was introverted.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think there are certainly people who could try, but I think there are also just, we have different ways of being in this world and we need to accept that. Like, I was recently talking with an artist who said they were so grateful because their mother encouraged their art. And that was really, in their family, was like surprising because like all of their siblings are like doctors and stuff, you know?
yeah.
But it was clear that art was like just coming out of this person and it was a necessary part of their like healing process and stuff. And the mother encouraged that. And I know there are families
Yeah.
who'd be like, you're not going to be an artist.
No, because I mean, me going to a very diverse and rich school, I definitely met a lot of like Middle Eastern, Asian families that were very like, you are going to have a PhD in something and make six figures. Like there was no.
I dealt with a lot of students. I did some academic coaching when I was at Virginia Tech. And there was all these students who came from like the affluent suburbs of Washington, D.C. They call it Nova, Northern Virginia. And so like all these kids from Nova were the ones that had like the high powered parents and
Yeah.
they were expected to do XYZ. And the reason I was coaching them was because they were on academic probation. The number of them that I would talk to who would say like, I don't want to be here. I'm here because my parents forced me.
Yeah.
They told me I'm going to be an engineer because my dad's an engineer and I can get a job in their firm and blah, 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 you know, and I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And
Well, that's the great thing about nepotism is that you don't need a degree. You can just have your dad
you go.
hire you into the
just
job.
Hire anyway.
Yeah.
But it was sad to me because in that situation, my job was to get their grades back up.
All right. Oh, okay. I
Get
see.
their grades back up and give them hints and tips on how to like overcome any studying problems. But I also was just like tried to give them like just an ear, you know, because I thought this is terrible. This person really wants to be an artist and their parents are forcing them to be an engineer, you know?
Yeah. I always have trouble with that too because I do support the idea of a backup plan,
Yes.
but I think it's really hard to have a backup plan when it's like that. Like there's a difference.
Like something you don't want at all.
Yeah, and it's also difficult if there are two completely separate ways of getting that thing. Like for a lot of art stuff, you just have to do it, and you just have to hope that you manage to pick up popularity, and that way you can make money off of it. And then you have to go to college for usually whatever other backup plan there is.
Yeah.
Like arts and
Or a trade school.
anything else that's academic, really. Yeah, or a trade school
Yeah.
is going to be two completely different paths. But the thing is that your backup plan then for going to college or a trade school is going to take up way more of your time.
Yeah.
Even though it shouldn't, since it's your backup plan.
Yeah, that's the tough thing, I think, for somebody who really like the honest truth is that the arts are difficult to make a living at. It is rare
A lot of it's just luck.
or sports I mean a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time. A lot of it is connections if you have connections. And you can be and
trust
talent
me.
sometimes doesn't really matter. Like you can be the most
Yeah, have
talented.
you gone to a modern art museum?
Yeah, that day guy, he was, you can be super talented, but never be in the right place to be discovered or have the right connections to get in front of the right people. Like it's
Algorithms
hard.
online can just screw
Oh my
you.
God, just like jump. Yeah. And it's so difficult because if you have a dream like that, you want to pursue it, but you also know like it's a slim chance. And to have like the backup plan, like you said, unless you're just like, well, I'm going to wait tables until this happens. You have to invest time.
That's basically where I'm at.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah.
And
People
that's a difficult spot as a parent too,
Yes.
because logically, like that's going to be very difficult to break into, and I want my child to be safe and financially secure and blah blah blah. But you also don't want that to come across as like, I don't think you're talented enough. You know what I mean? Because that's not the issue at all.
Yep.
It's the odds.
Yep. I'd be perfectly fine making a barely living wage while just doing stuff that I like. So, because I'm doing my absolute damnedest to stay out of debt.
And you're doing a great job.
If I can do that, and I'm still only waiting tables or whatever frontline job I'm going to have at that moment, that's honestly good enough, because I feel like debt is what really sinks people, not what job you have.
Yep.
So
100%.
But yeah, if you go to college and you want a backup plan to be something else, and your first plan is also college, then you're already set, because you really just, if you have a degree,
switch careers.
Yeah, if you have a degree, then you automatically can.
That's getting a little better. I've noticed more and more listings that are like no degree required, which is nice. But it used to be like when I was growing up, everybody was like, you better go to college or you're not going to get anything.
There was a couple like editing jobs that I saw where I needed a degree.
Yeah.
And I like read the description and everything, and it was like, you need to know knowledge in this thing and this thing. I was like, why didn't you just put experience down?
I know.
No, like going to college. Well, no, I'm saying for editing specifically. Editing, you barely learn how to edit in college. All of the editing that you learn from college is by playing around with the program. So if you play around with the program outside of college, you know how to do it.
Yeah, I think the college degree should be. This could be a whole episode about what's wrong with the college system. There's so much wrong with the college system.
Next episode,
yeah. Not to mention like the debt you get into. Most people honestly would be better off going to a trade school. It's cheaper, and then a lot of the trades get paid more than a lot of the.
And for some reason, trades are shamed. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's very well. It's how it's always been, like blue collar,
people also
physical work.
People are also for some reason like get disgruntled about the easy way out. And it's like, why wouldn't you want to take the easy way out? Like, why wouldn't you want the easier thing? Go to college for 10 years so you can finally become a doctor and make 6 figures, or go to college for 2 years and make 6 figures.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, obviously there's a difference in what you want to do, but
right.
If you're purely looking at the numbers.
Oh, it makes way more sense to go for a trade.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny coming from me because I have a PhD. But I can tell you, it is not worth it. It was expensive, and I'm going to be paying that. My student loans will probably go away when I die. Like that's probably how it's going to be, and now
as long as the government doesn't make me inherit them.
No, if you die, your student loans go away.
Right now.
That fair. I'll do my best. Yeah. So, what was my train of thought?
PhD.
What?
PhD. Paying it off the rest of your life.
Don't remind me. It's, in my mind, growing up, and then even, up until I was maybe 40, college was like the end all be all. It's what you needed. And I thought a PhD would grant me access. And now, granted, at the time I wanted to be a professor, so it made sense. But I don't think my PhD has really gotten me access to anything. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say for sure. I mean, there may have been a job I got hired for. They're like, oh, she has a PhD. Like, I don't know if that could put me over the edge or anything, but there's like no,
Always there's something.
yeah, there, I mean, but there's no like
Honestly,
nothing that I'm aware of.
one of the biggest things is just your parents having your back, which is what you guys have always done for me. I think college was like one of those things you guys really had trouble with trying to get behind me with, of not going anymore.
I didn't. I worried about you.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like there was a lot of sit downs and discussions for that more than anything else.
Yeah, I should say. Yeah, I should put it like this. I didn't. We were not the parents who were going to sit down and yell at you about going and making sure you went and all that stuff. But I felt like I wanted to do our due diligence. Like, I watched how much you hated it. I watched what it was doing to your psyche. And I was like, I want my child to stop doing this because he is unhappy. Mm-hmm. And so I immediately was like, don't go back. Like, in my mind, I was like, don't go back. But then it was like, okay, this is a huge decision with long-term ramifications, which your dad knows because he doesn't have a degree and he's had trouble his whole life getting jobs and stuff, you know? And so I wanted to make sure we talked about it thoroughly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Recently I had an anxiety attack, like same degrees I would have almost every day when going to school. And I was like, how did I live with myself?
Yeah, I don't know. You always had anxiety issues. Like, even as a toddler, you didn't want to be dropped off at daycare and stuff.
I don't know what school screwed with me. Like, and any time now that I feel the level of depression or anxiety that I had while I was in school, I was like, I don't know how I did this every day.
Yeah, I don't know either. And school is not for everybody. It's just not.
No, it's not. And yeah, I'm perfectly fine never going back and living with crappy jobs. So that's fine with me. I have made my peace.
All I care about is whether or not you're happy. Well, I shouldn't say all I care about. I also want you to be clothed and fed and have a roof over your head. And you know.
Well, I mean, that's what's also nice about you guys. Like, you guys weren't 18 and kicking me out of the.
Oh my God, I didn't want you to leave. I heard all these other parents that were like, oh, I can't wait till they're out of the house. And I'm like, I don't want him to go.
Yeah.
I even hated it when you just kind of disappeared for a while when you first started dating Shelby, and you guys just were always like, you were always at her place, or you were like, you guys were always out, and like, you were like, it was so sad to me. I was like,
I remember.
I don't even remember. I can't even see him anymore. Like, we used to watch movies all the time. We used to do puzzles and all this stuff.
Yeah, because you wouldn't even really see me in the morning, because in the morning I would go to work.
Yeah.
And then like after work I would go to Shelby's or something like that.
So I wouldn't see you for days. And I was like so sad. And I was like, how are people like just like excited for their kids to leave the house? Like, I don't understand this because I am so sad. So like, yeah. So when now having you both here, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also I think why there's like, I think right now as well, there's so many people that are just shutting their parents out as well.
Going no contact.
Because their parents will be like, I want you out of the house, or, you know, you just have to listen to me and that's it. And basically all of the negative things that we've talked about so far, sometimes a lot of those are wrapped up in one parent. And then they'll get mad at their kids for not wanting to speak with them or anything like that. And it's like, how...
There was more... definitely that philosophy I remember growing up, which was basically, especially because I grew up in a Christian context, right? So everything was about forgiveness. You need to forgive everything, right? And there's forgiveness, but then there's also protecting yourself. Like you can forgive and still remove yourself from the situation.
Yep.
You know, and
Yeah, because that's like, that's exactly putting yourself in a toxic situation and then just keep forgiving that person. And then they're like, no, if I ever had a friend that was constantly toxic to me all the time, first of all, they were never my friend to begin with because they were so toxic to me all the time. And I just cut them out. I'm not going to try to be friends with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we have this, I don't know how prevalent it is in which generations and whatnot, but definitely like in my generation growing up, it was very like family is family, you know, and you just forgive. And then you just like stick with that family, which in a very, very basic sense, people make mistakes, you forgive them, everything, but that's very different from someone being, like you said, toxic, or somebody denying the very fiber of who you are, somebody only demonstrating love and care for you if you behave in the ways that they want.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of funny because I'm very pro going no contact if it is good for your mental health. And I have to say that it's not because I want to go no contact with my parents or I have or anything like that. Like I'm very connected to my parents and I go back to visit them often and, so I don't want to go no contact with them and I wouldn't. But witnessing like what the relationship I have with my family versus what some other people I know have with theirs, I'm like, yeah, your situation is bad. Like, you know, and, especially when somebody's like, they come out as like gay or trans or, you know, and then their parents are like, basically like
shame.
Yeah. Like, why would that kid want to stay in contact with you, honestly?
Especially there's some parents that will kick their family member out or will get mad at them and basically shut their family member out.
Yeah.
And then they'll get mad at the family member for not reaching out to them.
Oh, it is this very weird feeling where they're like, well, I'm the parent. You can't reject me. I gave birth to you, you know, like, and in a very visceral way, I kind of get that, especially because if you ever were like, I'm going to go no contact with you, it would devastate me. That would be awful. It would be the worst thing for me. Okay.
Okay.
But I don't know what parents expect when they treat their kids the way they do, especially if it's like parents who have abused their children when they were younger, like physically abused them. And then as an adult, they're like, well, you should just forgive me for that. And we should,
especially if the parent had said something along the lines of, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then did it again.
Yeah.
And then even if the parent is being completely serious and it's 100% going to happen that you're not going to do it again, there's never going to be any that trust.
Well, and sometimes as older, they refuse to admit that
it was their fault.
Or that they even did it, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah. I hope anybody listening to this, I hope they don't have to go no contact with their parents, but I also hope you choose it if it's what's right for your mental health.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to.
Even distancing is okay.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be no contact.
Right.
You can just give if you say, I need some space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're a parent and your kid has gone on no contact with you, you may want to take a look at your behavior.
Yes.
Yeah. So, man, we covered a lot of stuff.
We did. It's an hour in.
Are we an hour in?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well.
Oh, goodbye.
Gotta
get somewhere.
I think maybe we need to do our Midwestern goodbye. Well, time to go.